morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone around the world. I am Paul Sisler, and this is In the Moment. Today we have episode 9 of The Flow with Shadow Fox and Lee Two Hawks. Hello, hello, hello. How are you both doing today?
We are doing splendid. Thank you very much. I'm glad to be on your show, as is she.
Awesome, awesome.
You gotta give me a minute. It's one of these days.
Having a little filter trouble? You do know Halloween was last month.
well, nothing's quite working. I mean, between the lighting and
That's
it
just
kind
the
of
way,
happens.
That's just the way it works sometimes. Jupiter's having a little fun with us. That's all.
Somebody is.
Well, maybe Neptune ought to step in.
Or Mercury.
Or Mercury, yeah.
Maybe it's Mercury's doing it. Sorry, guys. Don't mean to be so giddy, but
It's the Russians. It's the Russians.
It is the right. Oh, you're right. Oh, yes, indeed. Yeah.
It's always the Russians.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. Well, I had a friend of mine. Maybe he'll be able to join us. I think we're all having a little technical difficulties, but a friend from Twitter, Joseph, we were gonna come. He was gonna come on and kind of talk with us and share. And if he happens to pop in, and
Oh, here we go.
oh really?
There he
Is
is.
he here? Oh,
There.
there.
I made it. I found my way. I'm like a lost
Oh my
puppy surfing through all of this stuff.
Oh,
That's
we
all
were
right.
Oh, we're having one of these days. It's just nothing but giddiness right now because we all look like ghosts over here.
It's not a big deal.
Paul's clear. He's clear.
Yeah, I know. Maybe I'll just how's that? I'll be in the dark. How's
I
that?
had an episode of The Vellum with Cornelia Blackmore, and my internet went out, and I had to make her an administrator to my whole thing just so that the show could go on. So where there is a will, there is a way. We will make it work.
Okay, so maybe now how about take number 2? Okay, Paul. Let's do take number 2.
All right.
Well,
Hello,
introduce him.
Joseph. I am Paul Sisler, and this is In the Moment. So my guest today is Shadow Fox and Lee Two Hawks with their special guest, Joseph. Joseph, how are you doing today?
I'm fine. Thank you, Paul. How are you doing, sir?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
So we're seriously, we're just hanging out. I think you're gonna have to take those. The light keeps shining with them. No, I'm getting a flashback. There you go.
See, Lee, you got to get the new ones like I got that are non-glare so that, your eyes can show right through without the reflection.
But those were a special order, and I couldn't afford it. So there you go.
No, he'll end up breaking these glasses before the month's over. So, but with all the teasing aside, a great warm welcome, Joseph, for coming in and being able to have some time with us. Again, it's just, we like having fun at times. We enjoy sharing different perspectives. I think Lee Two Hawks was really excited when he saw some of the pictures that you had shown. But other than that, I would just like to really just kind of start a conversation. If there's something you in particular would like to discuss or bring forward, Joseph, I mean, you are our guest, and whatever you feel comfortable in talking, we're in the flow. And we're just going to go with that because
the first thing I would like to do is just tell you how grateful I am for the invitation and the honor to speak with all of you. It's
the honors, really. It's just we enjoy it. I mean, just sharing, and we did speak about, planting seeds, sharing the perceptions. You did a show last night with Dee, and it was, oh man, that was a really great show you guys did on
It
Twitter.
was.
It
I wasn't
really
in there
was.
long, but for the brief amount of time I was in there, it was an excellent show. And I heard a little bit something about planting the seeds.
Yep.
Yeah, well, sometimes it's best to just plant seeds and allow it to grow in people's minds at their own pace and their own level of acceptance and understanding of, you can't plant a tree in there. So we have to just start off with a seed and just let it grow and let it take root, and it's really incredible how those seeds can grow, how you can just plant a seed in a space or in a group of people, and you see, it may take weeks or it may take months, but then all of a sudden you see them conversing on that same the same idea, the same ideology, right? And you just see it take flight, and it's like you realize that one little seed planted is like expanding the consciousness of so many people, how it's affecting, and it just starts growing. It's so beautiful.
I think the critical aspect of this is the soil that the seed is planted in.
Yes, it has to be fertile soil. Absolutely.
It has to be a fertile soil, exactly. And that's the analogy.
Yeah, and so it's like as people start to question, right, or their surroundings or things that happen to them, whether it be in dream time or just in their life circumstances, they'll start questioning. And so this is like the first part of anything, and both Lee Tuox and I are the first ones to say, we may be presenting something or sharing or sharing a different perspective or information, and we tell you flat out, oh, don't believe anything we say. Check it out for yourself. See how it resonates with you, or how you could possibly entertain it in your life and apply it and see if it works or not. How do we know if something is going to be workable if we don't try it, right?
Absolutely.
I'm gonna jump in on this. You don't always need fertile soil. In fact, sometimes you can actually have the crappiest soil there is. And when you plant that seed in there, you just have to give it a little extra care, a little extra love, a little extra attention, and it'll find those nutrients if its roots go deep enough. You just have to make sure you give it some water and some sunshine, and you might have to give it a little special extra attention. But I think even planting those seeds in unfertile soil, you can sometimes make them grow. But it's the hardest one to get to grow.
Well,
yes, there's a story, Paul, that I realized very early on, decades ago. A woman had a cement patio. Cement, okay, this section, there's a little crack between the next section. And nothing grew there. She walked out the door because she's in great consternation of where am I? Who am I? What am I doing? And out of that single crack grew a rose. Mm-hmm. And that yet goes exactly to what you're saying.
Right through the cement.
Yep, right through the cement. And it's just fantastic. It was an actual story. It actually happened.
Yep.
And I'm just so grateful that you expounded upon that point.
Yes, because as you know, I do a lot of political channels, and sometimes it's really hard to reach people, and you got to plant a seed in some very toxic soil sometimes.
Yep.
But if you nurture it, you give it some love and care, sometimes that seed can grow, and before you know it, the toxicity is just pushed away, and all the nutrients and the kindness and the love and the energy start to show through. But it takes a lot of work. So
I think also, Joseph, excuse me, I'll give you a moment here.
No worries.
We have to realize that the extent of our reach is not just at the end of our arms.
Right.
Yes.
We have to realize that we emanate out into the future, into the past, into the present. And in that outward reach, we become aware of of a great oneness of who we are.
Yeah.
And this I learned through my, and Joseph, you'll realize what I'm saying, at the Sundance, where I was tied to a tree with twigs, with bones in my skin, that this is a oneness of this all. And Joseph, you talked about the eagle, and eagle was there.
Hmm.
Beautiful.
So Joseph, what you have any comments, or does that trigger anything with you?
Well, just that you know, when we're talking about seeds, when we're planting seeds of knowledge, that seed is attached to a language as well. And a great example, Shadow Fox, was the space you and I were in the other night with Child of Light.
Oh,
And
yeah.
we were all speaking of something, and at first it was being misinterpreted,
Mhm.
right? And then as we continued the conversation, we realized we're all talking about the same things, but expressing it in the vocabulary differently.
Yeah.
Right. And it just turned into such a beautiful and such a deep conversation that we had, that it actually, like you had mentioned, like you were feeling the vibration,
Yeah.
just from that conversation.
Oh, yeah. And when we were speaking, I was talking about, our diversities, the ideas that we may understand a subject matter, for instance, in one way, and somebody else another, and someone else another. But it is our diversity which is the spice of life. Honoring each person's diversity, but as in the whole. And I just forgot. I had the word, the terminology you came up with, and I loved it. I said, I'm going to borrow it. And now I lost.
Unified diversity.
There you go.
Because really, and this would be right up your alley, Paul, probably, is that governments use our diversity against us, and
Yes.
they pit us against one another.
Yep.
Because of diversity.
Yes.
And right now we're about to flip that, where we have to step into ourselves of oneness, and the diversity no longer divides, but it unites, and it strengthens us in all of our diversities. And when we bring them all together as diverse tools at the same table, right, we can really unify the diversity and use it as a strength, rather than allow others to use it against us.
Well,
Yes.
Joseph, this is something I've long been decades pronouncing, that tears have no language. Laughter has no language. It's a commonality globally. You know when to laugh. You know cries mean something. Either it cries of happiness or it cries of pain. And that could be Africa. That could be here in Latin America. It could be you here in the United States. You see tears, there's
Pain
pain.
or suffering.
And that's a universal thing. That's a language in itself.
You know what else is a language? Even a smile, but music.
Oh yeah.
That's why I love music. I love writing songs, but the songs I write now come from the spirit. It's no longer coming from my mind. If I just open my heart to the expression of it.
Okay. How do you realize that? How do you realize? How do you separate from your mind or from spirit?
Well, okay, so from my mind, I would have to sit and try to structure a song, and try to sculpt a song to be appealing to others. But when it comes from the spirit, the song just flows out. I don't have, and I can just write like. So, for instance, the first time spirit came through me in song, I had picked up my guitar and I was just playing a few chords, and I sang a song, and it was effortless. And probably within 10 minutes, the song was complete.
Yep.
And I didn't have to sit and structure it, and I didn't have to try and mold it. It just flowed out naturally, because it wasn't coming from the cognitive mind, but it was coming from the soul speaking out through me. and
Well,
it just flowed so naturally and so beautifully, and it was it was just a totally
the
different
name of
way
this
of writing.
the name of the show is In the Flow.
And you were in
Oh,
the
nice, nice. Well, that's what happens when you allow spirit to come through, right? Because
Yeah.
we're all a part of the oneness that is all, right?
see-
And when you allow spirit to lead you, that's what happens. You flow. You flow with creation like water. If there's a bend, you'll bend around it. You don't run into the wall, right? You'll bend and you'll move and
This is
you'll
the
go
thing.
around.
This is the thing I wish I would have known 4 decades ago, because I was a painter. I painted wonderful things, but in my dreams, I saw colors which I could not represent in the physical plane.
Yeah.
I saw beauty that I couldn't. The auric episode of everything around us. A cat sitting in a chair all of a sudden had this glow around it, and I couldn't paint it, so I quit.
Yeah.
I stopped. And it was so heartbreaking to
Yeah.
me to do that, because
Like they don't make the colors.
they don't make the colors, and
Well,
I couldn't manufacture the colors.
yeah, I totally get that. Shadow Fox and I were just speaking earlier, and it was sort of about that, is how we see through the eyes as opposed to seeing through the spirit,
Yep.
right? So the eyes can observe something and we can recall up a memory, but that memory is a 2D image of
Yeah.
what we've seen. But the spirit is not looking through eyes, through physical eyes. Spirit is looking through vibration.
Yep.
Right. So if you can recall something through spirit, you're going to recall the full spectrum of it, because the spirit will reassemble all of that vibration that created it. So rather than ending up with a 2D image of it, if you could look at the memory of the spirit, it's in full view again. It's the 3D image of, because the spirit seen all of, right? It recorded all of the frequency and all of the energy that created it.
So
And that's what the
basically,
spirit would
you're
recall.
in the fourth dimension as opposed to the third.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. So the spirit in us it's, even in everyday life, we don't realize it because we've been disconnected from it.
Yeah.
But this is the intuition, the somehow just knowing without knowing, right? Shadow Fox put it beautifully, like, when you're in tune and you can see through the spirit. If you can walk down the street and you see somebody who's troubled, how do you know? Right? Like she expressed it so beautifully, saying like it's flashing like a neon sign, and you know, but your eyes can't tell.
Yep.
Right? But your spirit can tell, because it's seeing the vibration and it's feeling the vibration of it all.
You're talking about her.
Yeah.
Yes.
He hasn't been in a lot of these cases. No. Yeah, I think what in some capacities, what it comes down to is that humanity has numbed themselves from that part of feelingness. And they say like there's 5 senses, right? Or perhaps the 6th sense, where okay, the 6th sense, I see dead people, right? Well, actually, there is another one. There is a 7th, and this let's just say this is like the first time possibly this is being portrayed out here, but there really are 7. And the 7th one is that energy body of ourselves. It's from the etheric. And what that does is it picks up those energies that other people are putting out, such as they're emanating. Okay, whether it be that beautiful light within, people sing that song, This Little Light of Mine. Well, I'm sorry, but mine's kind of big.
This little light of mine.
this big light of mine. So in any capacity within that 7th sense is what many people have really programmed or accepted programming in order to numb it. okay, like not trusting the intuition. So even if you were to associate intuition with that seventh sense, because the intuition is what triggers it, right? That sixth sense, like I see dead people, or is that intuition? So either way, when we look at it, how do we in our everyday to day lives desensitize ourselves to the numbingness? How do we tune in? Like, how can I reach out and say, Joseph, right now, I can see your aura. I can see where you're sitting. You're feeling very calm and serene and trying to figure out, okay, well, what can I take from what she's saying and like add on to it, right? And so I can see as your thoughts are going through, because there's an emotional component to it, and I can see this like, okay, did I just say something and it fell on blank ears? You get the what is it? You refer to it like the deer's eyes in the headlights, like what? Okay. And we don't always necessarily have to be able to see that in the facial expressions. And if you think about it, Joseph, when we're in spaces and we're speaking, we have to listen, right? We have to listen to an intonal inflection. We cannot see like we are here. Like, did I lose somebody? Is somebody bored? Are their eyes rolling? So we're actually, when we're in spaces, and we do not have the value of seeing each other, there are other senses that are kicking in.
So both Shadow Fox and I have to stop to think because I colored by a different name. Anyhow, Shadow Fox and I have both a sense of auric field. We can see the auric field like around Paul, around you, around us.
Yep.
And that tells us a lot of information that is non-verbal.
Yep.
That is information that is like what the ego brings. Like I told you before, when I was tied to the sacred tree with hooks in my chest, doing the vision dance, and the ego came forward, and it was full of information. And how I got that was through pain, because the things in my chest were painful, and I had been there for 5 hours
without step food, beyond it,
without food or water, and this brought me that aspiration to look forward, to look for beauty, to look for kindness, to look for empathy, to look for all the compassionate things we should have for another human being. That's what the ego taught me. And I know you got a feather. And if you got that feather, treasure it. Because it's telling you that you're on the path you are expected to pursue. It's up to you to choose that path or not.
Yes, and that's what I'm going through right now. And we had started the space yesterday speaking of that, about manifestation and how to manifest something into reality. And I'll share that story quickly. It's a short story.
Yeah.
I was speaking with Dee, the host of yesterday's space, the night before the space. And the subject had got on to exactly what you're saying about the path that we're on and the path that we're meant to go on.
Yeah.
And there's certain things spiritually that I was told to do that I was refusing to do, and one of which was to diet, to prepare myself, to cleanse my body. And so what's happening in real life is I'm selling a house from, and I won't get into the specifics, but it's been on the market. It'll be 2 weeks tomorrow. There had been over a dozen viewings and not a single offer. So I told Dee the night before yesterday, I said, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to continue on the path that I'm meant to go on. Yep. I said, and I'm going to manifest something just as a demonstration of manifestation. I said, so tomorrow, I said, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to start fasting. I said, and I'm going to speak to Creator, and I'm going to inform Creator I am continuing on the pathway,
Yeah.
and I need to sell this house. And could I get help? And I said to Dee, I said, if I do this, you watch if I don't get an offer within 3 days. So yesterday I woke up and I began fasting. And late in the afternoon, I got a message from my realtor that we had received an offer. Now,
Awesome.
we can say that this is coincidence, but we have to at some point stop saying coincidence and realize the magnificent power of creation that we do have within us.
I believe the term should be turned into significance as opposed to what you just said. This is significant because it exemplifies the ability of the human spirit to bring forth that which it desires. Are you always handed what you desire? No.
No.
Freaking ready for it. I'm sorry, but sometimes people ask for things. It's like, no, it's your accountability, your responsibility to move to the point where you're able to receive this.
It's the idea from what he's speaking of is like always, be cognizant of what you're praying for because you might just get it, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
and it might not be exactly the way you're envisioning it. But I think this is where when you're making that connection and it's like the moment we release something, right? The moment we say, all right, just I'm done, it's released. I'd like to get an offer on the house within 3 days. You release it. That request has been sent out to the universe. And when we are in the flow, when we recognize and like that numbness, we're not numb anymore. We can feel that, right? We really can.
A good example of that is when we bought the house we are in now. We visited it 4 times. We've been looking. I put out a message 5 years prior to this.
We actually wrote it down.
I want 3 bathrooms. I want it on 1 story. I want a brick house. 5 years later,
here it is.
And it was at the right price. It was at the correct time.
Yep.
I had the finances to do it at that time.
But we did footwork beforehand because we looked at other houses, right?
Yeah.
So we started, the inertia was there and we just stepped into that inertia. And it's just like what you had said, because you had put it out there, it was on the market for a little bit, and there's a requirement that this come to a completion. And so you sat back and says, all right, I'm done playing. It's going to be complete. And so the message that was sent out to the universe was of that completion. So now bring it this way. And so therefore, and this is what I'm speaking about. Give me 1 minute, because when we become numb and we don't think that that connection is there, right? Oh, we can't see, can't feel, can't hear, can't do this. We can't. It comes into those perceptions that people hold. And the thing is that your perception was, this has to come to completion. And so I release it to the universe, and look how fast the universe delivered. When we step into that flow, when we get out of our own way, is when it's like people talk about miracles. People could say, oh, Joseph, you know what? That's a miracle that happened. But I would tend to say, when we understand this energy, when we understand the laws, when we understand stepping into the flow, the balance, not being numb, miracles are a byproduct. We don't have to think to create them. They just materialize.
Absolutely.
As an analogy, so many people are looking for a partner. They're looking, they're struggling, trying to find this one person fits into the environment or their thinking. And they finally give up and say, I give it over. And all of a sudden, a phone call comes from a mate. They know it's a mate.
Breaking up. Is it me breaking up, Joseph, or is it Shadow?
No, that's Shadow Fox breaking up. Their screen has frozen. I thought it might have been on my end as well.
No.
Yourself.
Are we breaking up?
Yep, you're breaking up.
You're coming back a bit now, though.
Okay.
I'm coming back, baby.
Okay, hang on a second. Hey guys, did you put up a question? Was there a question, Paul, you put up or something? Or no?
No, I put up Cornelia and all that. Said, got to roll. Love you guys. Thank you for the shows you do.
Okay. Okay, fantastic. Yeah, sorry, didn't mean to jump in, but we try, if somebody's listening, we try to see if they have a question.
Jump in on this manifestation because I actually wrote a paper in philosophy class, and it's called Impetuism, which is the study of energy. And you were talking about the five senses and then a sixth and a seventh and everything. And I think there's a lot more than that even.
Oh,
and
yeah.
People
12.
don't.
There's 12.
People don't realize how much there is, because when you're talking like manifestation, a lot of times we think that we manifest a certain thing. And I'm saying that alone, I don't think we can manifest anything that great. I think it takes more than that. I think it takes a manifestation from lots of people, like the people that bought your house. Because I just sold my house just a little almost a year ago, okay, and moved down here. And I got to where I had two offers that fell through, and then I finally got that third one just when I needed it before I became homeless, okay? I think what happens is that there's other people that are out there that they're trying to move things in a certain way, and they don't even know they manifest. And I got to point to this, so bear with me. So like, you wanting to sell your house and you listening to your guide, your creator, whoever on, I need to diet, I need to do this. And the more you put it out there and the more you're in tune to that, I think the people that were looking to buy a house and wanting a good house and them trying to manifest, it's almost like a spider web. The manifestations connect with each other, and that makes
what does that tell you, Paul? That tells you oneness.
Yes, where it becomes stronger and stronger, and then that's when the things happen. So I think it takes more than one person trying to manifest. I think it takes a collective of manifestations to come together. And the reason why I bring that up, when you, and again, I hate to bring it into politics, but I'm going to briefly, when you look at our division in this country that we have right now, it's not just one person that has manifested all the ignorance associated with racism and bigotry and xenophobia. That is all of them finally coming out of their shells because they were given an okay, and that's manifested into a web of anger and hatred and frustration. And then we have people that are coming together that are trying to manifest the other side of that, love and kindness and everything. And right now, I think we're in a battle of manifestations. We're all trying to manifest good things and bad things and things like that. So this, and again, as Shadow Fox knows, Joseph, I'm a spiritual atheist. I don't believe in a creator of all things or anything like that, but I do believe in things beyond my knowledge that can connect. So we are in the when you go into the laws of thermodynamics, we're in the second law, the law of entropy, chaos, where everything has to go in all these different directions before it can come back to balance. And based upon everything that we were just talking about, I think that our manifestations that we do, we are using more of our senses. We're having dreams. I think our dreams is another sense that allows us to communicate with ourselves. between the different cells that we have. And that's where what I think you would call spirit. That would be like my logical side and my emotional side and my spiritual side all coming together and starting to form a coalition of, hey, we need to come together on this stuff, creating larger manifestations that's going to reach out to other people and create that positiveness or negativeness. But
So, Paul, you're not adverse to the concept of collective consciousness.
correct.
A global consciousness that moves around the world that has different accesses. If
Yes.
you're loving, you have that access. If you're cruel and hateful, you have that access because
Yes.
those are thought forms.
Yes.
And in that reality, if there's that consciousness of collective consciousness, we have a defense. That defense is our own unity of self. And in that unity of self, and Joseph, I think you'll probably know this and understand this. In that unity of self is the whole collective, is our entirety of who we are as humanity, and the understanding and the beauty and the divinity. I know, Paul, you reject that. That's okay. All right. In the divinity or in the exaltation of the human spirit. And what do we call spirit? We call spirit that ability to emphasize, to create kindness, to create beauty, to create the understanding of one to the other instead of fighting.
Yeah.
Mm.
Joseph.
What do you
Oh,
think?
that's very, very interesting.
I
I love it. I love these conversations. Speaking about like in a political sense, and speaking of the divisions, in order for us to recreate or manifest a new reality, we have to be able to understand how this reality of chaos is being created until we can restore order to the chaos, right? And so how is it being created? Well, it's through hijacking of their perceptions.
Yes.
Right? When you feed people fear-based perception, show them war, show them killing, show them robbing, show them children starving. This all affects one's how they are connecting to reality.
Yeah.
Or people with long beards,
No, he lost his way. It's like
No, Joseph, you're absolutely
right where I loved it. It's like
you're absolutely correct. That's why I basically wrote a book,
I'm
The
sorry.
Red Herring Effect.
no, I love it.
As you propagate and you put that fear-mongering propaganda out there, that is going to bring out different things in people. Make note that we don't see, when I was a kid and I watched the news, there was always like a happy story on there. There was always something good on there. There was always, the kid that sold the most candy bars, or, the Girl Scout troop and all that, they won this event and now they get to go to blah, blah, blah and meet the senator, or an art class did this. There was always good things on the news. There was always like that bright topic. Now, when you watch the news, you don't get those. You get, we just had missiles hitting Poland and all that from Russia. We've got the Democrats just secured the Senate. We have the Republicans are probably going to control the House. We have this politician that's done this. We got Trump announcing his run for 2024 and how people hate this and they hate that and they hate this, and the world's going to end this way. It's going to end that way. The negativity that's thrown out there is something that people are their everyday life is becoming affected by it.
Mhm.
I'm 53. I'm going to be 54 next month. And I have never, ever seen so much discussion politically as I have in the last like 8 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Let me express this, Paul.
Yeah.
I lived through the assassination of Kennedy, his
Mhm.
brother, Martin Luther King. You talk about depression.
Mhm.
These are major events that
Yes.
caused a cultural shift.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
And it was so sad. I mean, when I watch the parade of Kennedy's body going through, people crying, crying, crying for miles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think when we take a look, just to change this up just a little bit here, guys, sorry, but I think that what is it's there's some negative content, the fear, the complete discord. And yet there are those of us who stand within the discord and shine that light and say, hey, guess what? Here's a life preserver. Like, take a breath. Just, step back. This moment in time, right here, right now. Like, I mean, we can literally do it right here and right now. Take a breath. Are
Mhm.
we okay? Are we okay? I'm okay. Are you okay?
We are okay.
I mean, my ceiling's not crashing down, right?
Right.
There's
See,
no
this is
lightning.
what I was leading up to, though, is that
Yeah.
even amidst all of this chaos and negativity and all of this propaganda that we have out there, when you go into like spaces, which again, 20 years ago we didn't have this, but you go into spaces, you go
Right.
into what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
We can come together in our like-mindedness in relation to love and kindness and wanting people to, be healthy and be joyful and stuff like that is very powerful.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people that I have encountered that'll come into a space and it's just like everything is just like so hopeless, and you guys have given me so much insight that I'm like overjoyed that there's people out there, and it's just like yes, because we attract each other, we come together, and that's what we do.
Yeah, and this is the part. It's like, because I, had reached out and I asked Joseph, I said, because, we've been in, quite a few different spaces, and, it's kind of like he'd say something and someone else would say something, and collectively,
Mm-hmm.
we were thinking, oh yeah, okay, well, we can expand upon this. And I will say, Joseph really, I mean, he really plants some seeds. He shares,
Yes.
he shares authentically. And I don't care to embarrass you, Joseph, but there is, and you can tell the difference when somebody's walking the walk or just talking the talk. And from what I can see is, Joseph, he's stepping in and he's like walking the walk in whatever. And like he has said, you can't, he made that commitment, such as when he was getting ready to sell your house, Joseph. He says, all right, well, I'm gonna step into fasting for a little bit. I'm gonna get that cleansed. So I'm cleansed this way and cleansed spiritually and emotionally and everything. And so you were looking at all those bodies of, the physical, the emotional, the mental, the spiritual aspect. And when we do that cleanse, and it could be just meditation, right? For one component of it. You did that. And this is what I'm saying about living life authentically. Releasing all that stuff that binds us up where we're numb and we can't feel each other. And so when Joseph talks, this space he did last night was phenomenal. And like when he was talking, how many people he was reaching, and people were listening and asking questions. And so I'm going to give up the mic and let Joseph speak for a moment, because I'd like to hear, the wisdom that comes out of this beautiful soul that's right before us is phenomenal. And
Oh, I'm going to interrupt.
I know.
Go ahead.
That was pretty hard for you to give up that mic too, wasn't
Don't mind us. We just
it took a lot for you to give up that mic, though, didn't it?
well, yeah. I am the chatterbox.
Oh, we
Well,
love you for it.
well, to talk about, this kind of stuff, it's like, is the world being created in chaos, or is the chaos being created in the world? Right? I believe that, there's a divine creation that's creating all of this. I understand it. I mean, I could refer to that as God, or I could refer to that as source energy. I could refer to that as the universe, but I could also refer to it scientifically and say it's quantum fields that exist beyond our perception.
Yeah.
But it's there. It's sort of like light. Light is a quantum field in itself. We can't see light. We can see the effects of light reflecting off, but we can't see light itself, the light in between two spaces. We can't see it, right? But we know it's there because we can see an object when the light reflects off it. Well,
Right.
consciousness itself is a quantum field, and it's one of the higher quantum fields. It moves almost instantaneously across the universe. That quantum field of consciousness is within all of us. Light is within all of us. All of these quantum fields are within us. But that quantum field of consciousness is creating all things in a divine fashion, in a divine order. And like you had said, Paul, there's this, in manifestation. Well, was it me that manifested the house offer, or was it a manifestation of the purchaser and something of a higher consciousness, that quantum field of consciousness, seeing those two desires and put them together?
Yep. That's
So-
the flow. Yeah.
So when we look at the whole reality, that quantum field is creating things in a divine order. We can add chaos to it, but we can't recreate. And everything is divine, and everything is supposed to be in a perfect order with not just us, but with the environment, with the earth itself. Right? The water, the trees, the air. All things, there's a divine structure to it. There has to be. Otherwise, we wouldn't see this beautiful world that we see. Right?
There is indeed, Joseph. So I totally agree with you. However,
When you understand these connections to these other quantum fields, this is how we can start using those quantum fields to our advantage by following that path of, like, so for me, how did I manifest that? Like, how did it relate to doing the fasting to manifesting that offer? Well, it's because it's a surrender, and it's a surrender of myself. It's a surrender of my free will, because I like to eat fried chicken. Don't get me wrong. I like to eat steak. But if I'm being called by a higher power, and that is telling me to cleanse yourself by eating fruits and vegetables,
Right.
well, I have to be willing to step out of my comfort zone, right? That comfort zone is that fried chicken. And so long as I am but do I have to do it? No, I have free will. I can choose to not follow that path I'm being called, or which is the path that is being called by the divine, that higher quantum field of consciousness. If it's calling me into service for something, I can deny it. I can use my choice, my free will. But then by doing so, I am creating the chaos, and I am moving away from the divine order, from the divine structure. So when I surrender that free will and say, as much as I love fried chicken, right? If I'm being asked to cleanse, and I follow that path, then that quantum field of consciousness says, hey, he gets it. Here's what you need. Here's what you need to continue on that journey and to make that journey easier for you.
Damn it.
right? So this is just sort of my perception on it. And the people that are destroying this world, I believe fully that they understand these concepts, right? And they use the same energetic principles, but in a nefarious way, in order to create the chaos.
I do think there are a few people who are leading the way to create the discord and the chaos. However, are you okay, dear?
Yes, I am.
Okay, he's got a sneezing fit here. I do believe that there are others, because they are numb. All they are doing is parroting what is being brought forth instead of doing, questioning, how does this serve humanity? Is this just serving me, my own selfish requirements, because I really enjoy power and greed and opposition, or greed, opposition, and power, or am I really looking at serving or bringing a service to humanity? Now, if you're on either side of that spectrum, again, we look towards the middle run, right? That neutrality. But until somebody chooses to step into a position of neutrality, you're always going to be swayed, and you're going to stay on one side of the fence or the other. And nobody's saying that side of the fence is wrong or the other one is better. That's not what I'm saying. But the energies that are coming, the energies that are here, are going to be for serving mankind, right? Serving us in a healthy way, not serving us in being selfish and self-absorbed and self whatever. Okay, we're looking at like what Paul is bringing forward, the humanity aspect, the people being equal, so it's not off the backs of someone else. There's no human agenda. These are the things that are coming forward. But when we're looking at that discordant note, we don't have to, it's a good idea if we did, is to consider a neutral or middle ground. Because if we do not, then the only thing we're doing is parroting. And it even means on the other side. This is why people will start talking, whether it be a spiritual aspect, this, that, this is how you do it, but yet that person's never done it. All right, they talk it, it's a good talk, but they don't walk it. And so when that happens, you can see and you will feel that authenticity as someone is speaking. It will resonate very, very deeply. And there are people that are just releasing right now. They're stepping away from parroting what somebody else has said, what somebody else's agenda is, and they're recognizing that they themselves hold that power. They themselves can make those choices. Just because my parents did it one way, who says that was the correct way? Or was in my life? I mean, come on, start asking questions.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna add to this and all that, because I mean, some things I agree with, some things I disagree with. Again, I don't believe in a divine creator, so there's where part of my differences come in. Joseph, can you have a conversation with yourself in your head?
Sure.
Okay. Did you know that 75% of the population cannot?
Wow, I didn't know that.
It's called an inner dialogue. 75% of the population do not have an inner dialogue. They cannot have a conversation with themselves in their head. Only thing they can do is maybe get some imagery. So when you run across people that you're going to see people that are actually thinking, that means they're conversing in their head. Then there's going to be the people that have that blank stare. And they have to wait until you're done talking. And then what they're saying, they're thinking it as they say it, because they can't converse in their own head. So when you start talking about how there's people that they understand and they know what they're doing and they believe these things and stuff like that, there's a lot of ignorance out there because there's people that are actually incapable of having that inner dialogue. So they hear things and they repeat it. They store it into memory and they repeat it. They pull up that memory when the conversation dictates that memory to be used. That's why we have a lot of ignorance out there. That's why when people, all they do is watch media and social media, and their channel or their person or whoever continually says things over and over and over again, they're incapable of going beyond that unless they listen to someone else. Where people that can think in their head and have a conversation with themselves can sit there and you say something and I can go, as you're saying it, having a conversation with myself, I don't know if that's accurate. No, I remember reading that somewhere else, and that kind of doesn't go along with what he's saying, or blah blah blah, or oh yeah, I remember watching this, blah blah blah. I can have that conversation in my head. I have an inner dialogue. So there's a lot of people that are out there that actually don't get it. And
That's very interesting.
yes,
Because I can relate exactly to what you're saying because I've tried speaking to people about certain things and they are parroting almost word for word what they're seeing on the news.
yes.
And I'm saying, how do you know that that's true? What you're being told on the news, you're repeating it like it's true.
Yes. No
Like, haven't you ever
dialogue.
given it thought?
No inner dialogue.
Yeah. And
Okay.
I'm just not questioning. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay. My interpretation of this is that, yes, there are fields of intelligence or receptivity that are limited. There are fields also that are like you, Joseph, that are capable of sensoritizing an intelligence that is beyond the brain. It's in the mind, but not in the brain. And it comes from the mind to the brain. And you have opened yourself to be receptive to that message, which is more critical or more expansive and more beautiful than what most people don't allow, the interiorization of who they are or the limiting aspect. They limit themselves in their aspect of humanity. Whereas there are people who allow that, who are trying to lead the way and say, let's get out of this shit, man.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
I don't like feed me if I'm to parrot something, then give me something that's nurturing, right? Okay. If there is something, where is compassion? If somebody is bringing a message across and it creates or instills fear, somebody's going to take something away from you, or if you don't do this, you're going to starve and die, or whatever, half the stuff they put out there. If someone is bringing a message of compassion or love or understanding, or showing people their own inner power, well, it's so broad that it's almost like it really can't be parroted, because it's more of an experience, I think.
Let me tag on that,
Yeah.
if I may, okay?
Yep.
I've been in war. And when you're in war, you depend on the guy next to you and the guy on this side to help you through it. I've seen death, I've seen tragedy, I've seen bloodiness, I've seen all that gory stuff that we find in war. However, the beauty of humanity remains. The beauty of our expression of who we are remains. Is that not through all that I've seen, and maybe you have seen, Joseph, I don't know, does that not reveal a certain sense of divinity? And Paul, I know you're going to object to this. Okay?
And that's okay.
That's okay. Yes, it is. At least, let's not call it divinity. Let's call it an expansive consciousness.
Or sum total.
Or sum total, yes, of everything we are. Joseph, what do you say to that?
There has to be something. I mean, if we removed all the humans off the earth, would the earth not be a divine creation?
No.
Like all the lions wouldn't run around and just, overpopulate the world and eat all the other animals. There's still a divine order.
Yeah.
What is creating that? Right? There has to be something that is keeping everything in a proper order. We can interfere with it, but in the same way, we can also cause chaos by understanding this. So, for instance, I'll speak politically again, Paul. If you have a very small group of people, and unfortunately, they've built systems, financial systems.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you have a very small group of people think of it as a pyramid, and this is what they've done. So the people really controlling this planet, we don't know who they are. We could speculate, but I will guarantee you the energy moguls and the big tech moguls, the names that we may be familiar with, they're not even at the top of that pyramid, right? They are still
Nope.
just puppets.
Yep.
And what they're doing is they are playing on people's greed,
Yep.
people's selfishness,
Yep.
but those people at the top, let me explain that power of one, because they use it, and they don't care who's the top dog. There's a whole group of them. They don't care. Amongst them, there is no leader, because they're all profiting the same.
Correct.
They don't care. They don't care who's who, but they are working collectively.
Yes.
And they are working
Yeah.
collectively, and that web comes down the pyramid, and it influences, through political structures and through controlling. There's so many systems, and these systems have been controlled. And how do you get people to comply with the system? Exactly, right? You give them
Right.
money, and you
Yeah.
play on that greed. If you want the big house and you want the big car, well, you have to be a player, right?
Yep.
But you have to do, some bad things sometimes. But so long as you're willing to do that and just keep your mouth shut about everything else you're seeing, you can go up that pyramid, right?
That's the number. Yeah.
Right. So
Well, let me express this, Joseph. If we can agree that there's an entity who created this Earth, not the solar system, just this Earth, it's called a planetary logos. In his or its precipitation was the desire to create peace and beauty on this globe we call the Earth. However, within that were monads, or us, that came in and said, oh, we're going to support this. Yeah, we're going to do this. We're going to do this great beauty. And over time, it delimited itself into greed, avarice, and all the horrible things we think of. But at the same time, it brought forth, what do you see in Louisiana when floods came in? People gathered together. What do you see in Pakistan with things that got going on there?
People standing together.
Standing together.
Yes.
So there is that unity that is there that has to be connected somehow.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to do that. I wish I did.
Okay.
Well, if you could see the structure of the chaos, you have to be able to form and create the structure of the divine.
Yeah.
And it's not the divine that's going to create it. It's going to create it through us, and we have to create the same structure.
Yeah.
But so the ultimate goal of that structure is they understand the power of the energy and the power of perception through chaos. And through chaos, they feel that through chaos, they get order, but their order is control, right? So how do we counteract it? We have to come together in that same oneness, but rather than for nefarious purposes, with proper intention, with integrity, with love, and with respect. And we can create that same group, like the group that's sitting at the top. We have to create it, and we have to create a circle of light. And that circle of light will start spreading from that top of that pyramid down. But in ours, there is no pyramid. There's a circle. And in that circle, there's nobody in the front and nobody in the back. And as people,
Joseph, see, this is this dismantling, right? In order to create, or in order to birth anew, there has to be a dismantling of certain things, and it could be a dismantling of something that we believed in. I mean, come on, I believed in the Easter Bunny, okay, and I also believed that chocolate milk came from chocolate cows. And when I was a child, stop.
Okay. Don't ever admit that again.
So I'm just saying, but I was really upset when I figured out that, I mean, chocolate milk doesn't come from chocolate cows. However, the point being, there are laws. There are laws that this is the actual function. It is the breaking down, or the dismantling, in order to come forward anew. And so, yes, we had the pyramid system. Okay, I'm not saying pyramids are bad, but we had the triangle, okay, where our governments, you had the king and queen, and then all the peasants. Well, guess what? There's other ways. And guess what? There's other shapes too. In the circle, or even if we bring it down with a heart, guess what? We can create a new. But the thing is we have to start becoming aware and get off that treadmill, like what you gentlemen were speaking about. The pay scale, the this, the that. Let's tell the lies. Let's parrot. Simply because I don't care to give any thought to something. I'm just looking to get my paycheck and feed my kids. So in this drama that we can set forth, I can state this, that there are many of us that are stepping forward and saying, guess what? There's a circle before you. You can step into it if you choose.
Absolutely.
And this is where that power is. But Paul, I know I don't care to go into too much because I know we're getting ready to wind down. We're at we're a little over an hour.
Yep.
So just any closing thoughts or anything on
Okay, let me read something.
I was going to do the same thing. Go ahead, Lee.
Solipsism. It's a term. That term means, I'm going to have to read it from the dictionary, the theory that the self can be aware of nothing but its own experiences. Nothing is real or exists beyond itself. Mm-hmm. Does that describe the majority of humanity?
Read that again.
Okay. The theory that the self can be aware of nothing but its own experiences. Nothing is real or exists but the self.
Say the word again for him.
Solipsism.
I think a lot of people are unaware of how much they have an effect on others.
Yes.
Because they only care about themselves.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now,
but there's still a connectivity.
Yes. I want you to think about this. Remember, I talked about inner dialogue earlier, how 25% of the people have an inner dialogue and 75% don't. We have 4 people in here. Statistically, since I already know I talk to myself in my head, statistically, the 3 of you shouldn't be able to do that. But I want you to think about that. Here we have Four
I
people.
talk to dead people. Does that work? No.
Think about this though. We have four
So do
people.
I.
We have four people define statistics. And the reason for that is that the people that have an inner dialogue come together. The majority of people that I talk to, have an inner dialogue. And those that I encounter that do not, it's very hard to plant a seed there.
Mhm.
Okay? Because they're not equipped with the ability to allow it to grow.
Because they are part of the cultural aspect.
Yeah. Yeah. So those are the people that are manipulated every day.
Mhm.
And it's up to us to give them a different viewpoint, because if we don't give them a different viewpoint, something else to look at and hear that they can later parrot,
Yeah.
Well,
they're not going to advance.
that's exactly what I'm getting at as well. Like you put it so nicely, that
Yeah.
if there is a structure in place that's causing the chaos, we
Yeah.
can also create an opposing structure,
Yes.
right? A duality structure that we show something different. And that is what Shadow Fox had first commented about, which is that unified diversity,
Right.
Yes.
right? And we show that order within the chaos,
Yes.
right? And with that, I have to believe too that all the chaos that we see is for purpose, and it's for
Absolutely.
purpose of our growth as humans, right? Because
Yes.
how do I know how to love if I have never been hated?
Right. And the thing is,
Yes.
just so we can do this, so we can start closing. I would like to say, the energies that are upon us right now is to enliven, or shine a light on all that which was hidden. So all these things that were working in the background, all these mechanisms that were triggering and stimulating and feeding discord, or hate, or whatever those, however you'd like to look at it. I mean, we can pick up 50 million words if you like, but when light is shone upon it, it recedes, it vanishes, it just, the light. And this is why, we continue to do these shows. And all we're trying to do is shed a little light on a few different things. And I myself, for the flow, am in the flow. So there's not a topic in any capacity that we're not going to talk about.
Right.
Okay. If you like to do sex, drugs, and rock and roll, we can go with that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes. Here we go. Next hour will be.
Yeah. I'm leaving. But Joseph, thank you.
Thank you, Joseph.
Thank
Yes.
you so much.
Well, thank you all for having me and just allowing me to share these thoughts and these, express how I'm feeling when I'm looking at this world, because I believe in miracles.
Yeah.
I truly do. And there's a lyric in one of my songs, right? Do you believe in miracles? Because how do we see them if we never dare to dream?
Oh.
Right? And one of my dreams is to say, well, if people can cause chaos by controlling perception of what people's seeing, and that perception is causing them to feel these negative feelings and negative emotions and emit this low frequency thermal radiation from them as they're emitting like our electromagnetic pulses out into the atmosphere around us. This is what's the trap. And I dare to dream and say, well, if somebody can affect their perception in a negative way, we can affect their perception in a positive way.
Yes.
Well, let me say this very quickly, and we're getting ready to close. All right. So, to me, miracles are nothing more than the potentiality we have not yet expressed.
Yes. Well, it's time to express it. It's time to
Yes.
bring the light
With
to
that,
bring the light onto this world. It's time. It's time we bring the light onto this
Yep.
world, and
Yep.
and that is what the people are going to perceive. And I believe that's going to affect their frequency. We are going to change the frequency of this planet
Yes, we are.
because it's
We
time for
already
these dark ages to end and us to enter into the light. And you know, there's such an abundance and such a joy, like waiting for all of humanity. It's that heaven on earth that we all desire,
Yeah.
right? Just to be able to love one another and to be free to express that.
Well, you know, I used to have light till they shut the electricity off.
Oh, we have.
and with that, I'm going to read one of my poems. Okay, it's called "The Day."
Okay.
Wake up
Okay.
and welcome your final day. You don't know what it may bring. Put your love and kindness on display. Don't be mad when you don't get your way. Try to whistle, laugh, or sing. Wake up and welcome your final day. When the end arrives without delay, don't fear the darkening sting. Put your love and kindness on display.
Right.
We will not avoid this ending cliche. There isn't a magical ring. Wake up and welcome your final day. Life is short when all you do is play, a breath attached to a string. Put your love and kindness on display. Anger and cruelty creates dismay. Regret will taint life's short fling. Wake up and welcome your final day. Put your love and kindness on display.
Wow.
That is beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you, Paul. What a great roundup for that. Like, wow. Thank you.
You're welcome. And with that, be kind, be happy, and may good things come your way. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shadow Fox, for inviting me.